brothers gon' succeed, brothers gon' do all the things that the world needs. Brothers with degrees, brothers gon' succeed, brothers gon' do all the things that the world needs. Brothers with degrees, brothers gon' succeed, brothers gon' do all the things that the world needs. Brothers with degrees, brothers gon' succeed, brothers gon' do all the things that the world needs. Fresh out of college with a mind full of knowledge. Guess the world is my oyster, but I ain't shucking and jiving. I done got these cores and honors, so I guess I do the honors. I am a brother with a degree. My mother, father, ancestors, wildest dreams. I debunked the school to prison pipeline up in the 8th grade, and I ran it back 2 more times. I guess that time pays. Brothers with degrees, brothers gon' succeed, brothers gon' do all the things that the world needs. Brothers with degrees, brothers gon' succeed.
Yo, what up, Rito?
Yo. What's cracking?
Chilling. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, public service announcement. Welcome to Brothers with Degrees, a space where Black men can talk openly and freely about all sorts of things. I know that you're used to seeing Dr. Turner and myself, but Dr. Turner had to go be a scholar and a professional today, and I didn't want to reschedule our guest. I wanted to make sure that we could get him when we could. So I got my other brother with a degree, Kismet J. Rito, to come and entertain us and hope co-host with me.
What's cracking, people?
What up, man? How you doing?
I'm well.
That's good.
You don't have a cigar tonight?
I don't smoke cigars in the house because I got a wife and kids, and they don't allow that shit. So I do not smoke cigars in the house. But Brian does because he's just chilling. And he has a whole room dedicated for that. I do not.
Jeff, I thought you could fight.
I can fight, and you haven't you seen me fight? Like I'm sure.
I thought you could fight. Nah, I get it. Look, I had a cousin that came to visit, and he sitting on the sofa because I don't smoke in my house either. So he packing his Newports, he getting them ready, and I'm thinking he knows the rule is to go to the garage, right? He knows that he's been out there before. So he packing his Newport. He could pull it out. Next thing I know, this joker lights up and starts smoking in my living room. I was like, "Hey, man, where you think you at? I need you to go outside right now." He's like, "Oh, my bad." So yeah, I'm just giving you a hard time. I know how the rules go.
And then look, I'm gonna tell you, every time I smoke a cigar, my kids snitch. Like they be going to tell their mama. And I'm like, "Yo, your mama used to smoke cigars with me." Back in the
day. Right.
You don't know, your mama and my wife are two different people.
Right. They are not the same.
They not the same. And look, I never mind. I can't tell that story here.
Right. Say that one for the garage.
Yeah. Look, for y'all that don't know, man, me and Kismet have known each other for a whole lot of years. He's probably one of the reasons why I got a college degree. And I attribute him for me being Dr. Jeff. I truly stand on his shoulders. But I've spent a lot of developmental time as a man in Kismet's garage, drinking, and talking shit about life and playing dominoes, and all those things. You know what I'm saying? Now
the best life lessons.
Yeah. Now we was in the garage because we wasn't allowed in the house. And I didn't know I had to wait till I was really, really grown to understand that. Because we just couldn't come in the house. They wouldn't let us, people. But these were phenomenal times, and Kismet and I have shared like a lot of stories. I told Kismet, I said, I'm gonna get on here and I'm gonna talk shit about you. But in a wholesome and a wholesome way. Because, the one story I always tell about Kismet is I remember we was in the club, and I don't know what we was doing in the club, but we was in the club. Well, I know what we was doing in the club, but we was in the club, and he come out the bathroom and he got this look on his face. He looked like a disrespectful stepdaddy. like he's coming with it. Like he got a drink in his hand, and look, he went in the bathroom with no drink, but came out the bathroom with a drink. That's how I knew he was fucked up. And he came out the bathroom, he was looking, and it was some dude talking to my girlfriend at the time, and he was like, Jeff, like,
don't you do it.
You could hear him over the music and everything. Jeff, is it a problem? And I'm looking like, yo, like, what are you talking about, bro? And he points like this. Is it a problem? No, Kismet, it's cool. Nah, son, if you want to go, we can go. And then he throws his hands up like this, like a bird flapping away.
That's the exaggeration of the story. That is the exaggeration.
Like a whirling dervish of a tornado. And this nigga comes across the room and proceeds to want to fight this dude that my girlfriend is talking to. But it's a dude that we both know from high school.
See, the part that you're missing is that it was way cooler than that. It was like Ice Cube on the porch in Boys in the Hood.
It was not.
It was like what's up? Do we have a problem here? That was it. That's all I needed to know. I was trying to get the sign from you. Is it go time or is this a friend or foe? I needed to know. In
your head, it was as cool as Ice Cube.
That's what it was, man.
But what happened in real life? You look like the Tasmanian devil on acid. Like that's. And then I just recently informed Kismet today that that dude would have folded his ass up like a pretzel because he was talking that night about how he just did 3 tours in Iraq and he was special forces. I was like, oh shit.
Right. I ain't had no weapon, nothing but a beer bottle.
And then I don't know the dude that well anymore since high school, so I got to fight with Kismet. So it would have been a raucous night. It wouldn't have been the first time we got kicked out the club, but you know.
I'm just saying. You know, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know if this was something disrespectful happening. All I know is it was a strange man talking to my friend's girl. What's happening here? I just needed clarity. It was a point of clarity. That's all.
And that's when I knew we was friends. You know, that's when I knew we was real friends. You know what else is disrespectful?
What?
Gas prices.
Absolutely.
Gas prices.
Absolutely. I had a conversation just today about that. I was telling one of my old students, I was like, pretty soon we're gonna all be driving Teslas just because it'd be cheaper to buy a Tesla than it is to fill up a Ford. You might as well just gonna get you an electric car and ride on that.
People, and look, in New Orleans, they robbing at the gas station. Like they robbing and taking your car, like man, woman, child. Like the most dangerous place right now in New Orleans is like Costco. Cause that motherfucker's in the new. Yeah. Look, Costco done beefed up security because like somebody got shot in the Costco parking lot. Like maybe a week or two ago, and then they robbing white women at the gas pump at Costco, like gunpoint, taking their car. And if y'all gonna rob a white woman, y'all don't give a fuck about me. I know.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Gas prices are ridiculous.
So I wonder if that's going to curtail robbing.
Nah, it look like it's gonna spike.
I mean, but if you trying to get a car, like if you robbing for a car, you gotta put gas in the car.
Well, that's why you get them at the gas station because at least you know you got a full tank. At least you know I can get about 300-400 miles out of this.
I can get all the way to Florida.
Right. That'll get me to Texas.
But you know, like real talk though, like we really got to think about like holistically, right? Like how are we going to? Inflation just keeps on going and going and going, right? And like we're paying a higher price for the same shit. Like I was, and this is when
sometimes less.
Yeah, and this is when it hit home. When it hit home, it's one of my favorite places to eat up the street. And they told me I ordered two 10-piece wings and like a sandwich, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the lady fixed her mouth to say, "All right, it's $68." I said, what? Now, you know me. Once I've made up my mind to do something, I'm gonna go do it. So it didn't matter if it was 68 or 200. I wanted it, right? I needed them garlic parmesan joints in my life.
60.
And I was like, yo, I got to the store. I said, why is it so much? It didn't used to be this.
Right.
And she said, and then she pointed to the USA Today article about the price of chicken going up, or chicken wings going up. So they was charging me almost $17 for 10 pieces of chicken. And this is not a world that I want to live in.
You know what? You know what's a true measure of that? Is Church's Chicken. Because you could go to Church's Chicken and get you 10 pieces of chicken for what, about $3? Yeah. If Church's Chicken is going up in price, that's when you know this world is about to end. If you can't feed a family of 4 for $5 at Church's, this world is coming to an end.
It's a wrap. I feel you. I feel you. Yo, I totally agree with that. I want us to be able to live in a world where I remember you used to get 25-cent chicken wings. Remember back in the day?
Mm-hmm.
When we was in school?
Yep.
Now look, y'all, I say when we was in school about Kismet, but like we wasn't in school. I actually used to work for Kismet. And Kismet was like my mentor, but he was my mentor that would like, I don't know, like he would just make me do like crazy stuff. He really fucked up the employee-employer relationship. Like there's a lot of blurred lines, and that was like in 2005 is when I got there. That was in like 2005. So he blurred a lot of lines, and like so I just thought that this was okay, but it was not. It was like
there was growth that happened though. There was a method to the madness,
right? So explain to the. I'm gonna ask when Dr. Kimbrough get on, I'm gonna ask if he ever threw the keys to his car to a student and was like, "Yo, go get me this," or the first job copying library books. I was like, "Ain't this illegal?" And he was like, "Nah."
Right. We had a summer program. We had things to do. Now stay focused. Make these copies.
Yo, you like that was the most ridiculous thing ever. I was like, yo, this is crazy.
And ACT would have wanted us to do that.
No, not if ACT knew you was copying the test for niggas.
Right.
Not then, because you know they came out and said that the ACT is inherently racist.
Right.
Did you read that?
I haven't read that, but I can see why.
Oh no, there's a post that says the ACT is inherent. Well, they did a study. I think it was the Brookings Institute did a study and said that the ACT was an inherently racially biased test.
But all the minorities I know, myself included, I did better on the ACT than I did the SAT.
You know, my dumb ass didn't even know that you could take the ACT and the benefits of the ACT when I was in high school. But I took the SAT like fucking 4 times to get into college.
Yeah.
And
yeah. If you saw my SAT scores, you wouldn't believe that I'm standing here. My SAT was not great.
Mine either.
Like you remember what Ricky needed on Boys in the Hood? He needed a 700.
Yeah. You ain't even get what Ricky got.
Yeah, me and Ricky would not have been in college together. You hear me?
Well, you can't. Me and
Doughboy would have been chilling if it was up to the SAT.
You can't run the 40 like Ricky though.
Like, hey.
So
and clearly I can't test like him either.
Yo, I remember I was talking to what up, Dominique? Shout out Dominique. I remember I was talking to Dominique and we was talking about GRE scores, and he asked me what I made, and I said I'm the wrong person to ask that. I said I think I made an 8 on the GRE, and he was like, "What's the grading scale?" I was like 1,000.
Right.
I think, and I don't even know that, but I think I low key I made like an 8, and it was horrible. Just because I don't know, like. The program I was in, they told me I could take it if I wanted to. And of course I didn't want to, but then they told me that I had to take it just to get it on file. So I want to tell you, I was drinking with you all night.
Oh, don't try to put that on me.
I'm pretty
sure put that on me.
I'm pretty sure I was drinking with you all night, and then I came in and took the GRE hungover, and that's how I got it. I'm surprised I didn't get kicked out of grad school.
Look, I told you to drink some water. You got to hydrate.
You want to talk about the time you fired me?
I don't know why you like telling these lies, Jeffrey. What we need to talk about is how I come in the office and you sitting there with your feet propped up like you at home somewhere. I just made up something for you to do just so you can move your damn feet.
Because I was done with my work.
Right. You could at least played it off and make it look like you was doing something.
Nah, I didn't learn that till I got like a job to act like I'm doing some shit, and then
right. Look, that's probably why you was copying the whole book.
No, that was because you asked me to do that.
Same thing. That's why. Because I came in and you in there lounging. I'm right there working and slaving, and you got your feet propped up.
But if you would have read me in at the beginning, guess what? I'd have probably helped. I'd have been a better contributor to the team. Don't you think?
Whatever.
I'm just saying that's probably what would have happened. But I had my feet up because the laundry list of stuff that Kismet gave me to do, y'all, I already did. So, you know, he wasn't he had a thoroughbred in the office, and he wasn't letting them out to run.
I'm just saying, what I had to do was challenge you. And clearly that day I was not doing that. I was not doing that.
But then you fired me. Like I showed up to work, and then you was like, "Hey, you ain't working no more." And I was like, "What you mean?" It's like, "I can't afford to pay you no more." Oh, okay. Well, that's fucked up. Are we still gonna be friends? Yeah, I got you. And then I come back into the office the next day as an unemployed man, and then I see all this new Apple computers, all this new Apple equipment, and was like, "Yo, Jeff, this is what you was worth. This was all you."
See, you can get that to our governor at the time with the budget cuts that they were doing to the college reach out program. It was the trickle down effect. Because when the reality is, when I started with Crop, our yearly budget was like $150,000 a year, and then it got cut down to like 78. And then it got down to like 36. So I think that very last year, when it was just me and Erica.
Yeah.
That last year we got like 36,000 for the whole year. And we supposed to provide services for 500 kids and pay 2 salaries.
And then you was like, "Fuck Jeff. I can't even fuck with him no more."
I mean, you know, we had to go to an automated system, you know. So
the Macs couldn't do what I could do. They couldn't do what I could do. I'm just saying. And look, man. So, I don't know if y'all came in from the beginning. I forgot. I'm very fortunate to have a theme song for the show now, and it was done by a wonderful artist named Sozi, Sozi. Check him out on all streaming platforms. I want to tell you that this kid's gonna be the next to blow.
What's his name again?
Sozi, Sozi.
Okay.
He's gonna be the next one to blow, man. Like he's amazing, and I think he's truly talented. And that's my guy. Yo, y'all, I'm waiting on Doc said he was running a little bit late, so I'm waiting on him to come through. But until then, we just gonna regale y'all with some stories until I can get some stories out of prayers. All right.
Let's get it.
So Kismet, what you listening to right now? What's moving you?
To be honest, the past 2 or 3 days I've been listening to The Game. That album, Born to Rap.
Yeah.
I think that was a slept on jewel. Like that one goes hard.
But you listening to The Game really like worries me. Like,
why?
I feel like I need to phone a friend on that because like that's
why? Have you not listened to The Game?
And that's why I can say beyond the shadow of a doubt that I feel like we got to phone a friend.
I'm just saying, like the man has lyrical ability. He has talent. You don't think so?
No, he definitely does. But what I'm saying is like, because you're listening to that and the headspace that you're in life, like, yo, like, that's not the business. Like, I don't know how you can be a productive member of society and listen to the game.
I think so. Like it pumps you up. It gets you hype.
To do what? Like,
then
a drive-by?
I'm saying he has like some the sentimental stories, talking about childhood and parenting and all of that,
So you're not getting up to ride on fools?
I mean, if it calls for it, so be it. But
I'm just saying.
It's good music, man. It's good music.
Kismet, remember the time that we was out at the beach?
Yeah, and you had about 12 too many. Yes, I remember that.
That was the first time you ever seen me stumble.
It was, and I was nervous because I wasn't strong enough to carry you. I need you to get it together. If you fall out in here, you just gonna have to lay there for a while till you get your shit together.
Yo, let me tell you a story about me falling out, or potentially me falling out. Every time, like, so my stepmom is like, she worries a lot, right? And she's like, she worries about like social stuff and like my safety, literally all the time. Sometimes, like, even when it's unwarranted, like, she worries about my safety.
Right.
I don't know what life she thinks I live, but I don't live that life anymore. So I don't really got to look over my back, right? So she was like, yo, you really need to make sure when you're out at a party, and she just called me randomly one day just to remind me, right? Yo, when you're out at a party, I just really need you to make sure that, don't take any drinks from anybody. Cause she was like, somebody could slip you something. And I was like, yo, Miss Millie, I'm not the demographic.
Right.
And if I am, if I fall, like, if you slip me something and I fall out, you have to be prepared to do to me whatever you're going to do to me in the middle of everything.
In front of everybody.
In front of everybody. So, like, you got to make sure, that you can do what, like, that you got the balls enough to do whatever you're going to do to me in front of everybody.
Absolutely.
For the world and God to see, because you're not dragging me and moving me to a place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But you know what? What's funny though, and I love Miss Millie, but I think that's also a testament to the life that she has lived. She clearly has experienced some things, or been around people that have experienced some things. You know what I'm saying? Because what we met Miss Millie as an adult woman. You know what I'm saying? We don't know college Miss Millie. We don't know teenage Miss Millie.
We don't know her family.
Yeah. So it's something attached to them warnings. It's something attached to them.
But look, so it's like everywhere I go, like if I go somewhere, like I remember I was going to London, right? And my dad was like,
drop that? You just gonna drop that? You went to London?
Yeah, that was like so long ago, bro. So long ago. But
yeah.
But he was like, yo, my dad was like, yo, you gotta be careful in these streets in London. You gotta watch your back. I was like, Daddy, I came from New Orleans. Like, I think that it's far more likely for something to happen to me in New Orleans.
Right. Than in the streets of London.
Than it is in the mean streets of London. Like, come on. But I appreciate the care that they have. And now I understand, because, like, I'm a father now. Mm-hmm. So I want my children to be able to practice awareness. Like, I need them, like, I got 3 little girls, and I need them to know how to fight.
Right.
Not just to protect themselves. Like, yo, if somebody run up on you like this, I need you to know how to fuck them up.
Right. Self-preservation is key. It's a skill you got to learn. Yeah, we learned that on the playground.
But yo, so I don't know if kids like really get bullied anymore, because Top Boy got him shook about London. I don't know if kids really get bullied anymore though, because like, you know, my kids like live like a really good life in a sense. Like, yo, like I think I'm their biggest bully, not school.
Right.
Like, I don't know if you seen Chris Rock, the Tambourine special.
I did. It was pretty funny.
He said you gotta bully your kid. You gotta let them know, like, hey, sometimes he ain't shit.
And you know what though? Like I really feel like, although it sounds bad to say, but if I wanted to go in my neighborhood and play, I had to fight about 3 niggas before I got to my friends.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like everybody had a big brother. I had to wrestle with this one. I had to run past that one house. You know what I'm saying? And then somebody had a wild dog I had to run from. All just to get to my friends so we could play basketball.
I remember having a box when you leave the court. Like I was watching Bel Air, and I told my wife, I said, look, nah, this shit's real. Like I really remember this. Like you had to fight if you won too many times.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I understand why Will in Bel Air right now. I do.
Yeah. Look, and in my neighborhood, the only thing that separated the neighborhood from Pensacola Village was a fence that had about 10 holes in it. So depending on where you were, you could just walk right through the fence and be in Pensacola Village. But the neighborhood used to play football against Pensacola Village all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Them against us against them. But without fail, I couldn't tell you who has ever won a game because before it got to the end, somebody was fighting. Like it turned into a brawl every time. There was no way around it. Somebody to hit somebody too hard, you hit me like that again and see what happened. And then next thing you know, it's dust being kicked up.
I'm gonna tell you this. This is a grown man now, right? And I'm gonna bring on our guest, right? I'm gonna tell you this story. I remember, you know, from Pensacola, so Roy Jones everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember we was playing in a basketball league, and like I had my team and Roy had his team, and I had my people from the neighborhood, and some of my people from the neighborhood just got home, right? I'm talking about like they playing ball, like they playing a league basketball game in do-rags. You know what I'm saying? Like just got home. And one of Roy's people was talking a little bit too much. And next thing I know, my dude hauled off and hit him, and we were having a team fight in the middle of church. Somebody threw a chair at somebody. Like I don't know what the score was, but I know we was boxing. And then
what was that church? That was the one right up the street from your house?
Yeah, we was at Deliverance Tabernacle. DT.
Deliverance, yeah.
And look, Roy walked through the middle of the fight, and it was like Moses parting the Red Sea. Like he walked through the middle, and then it was 2 different fights on each side.
Right. We don't want no mistakes.
Right, no mistakes. We don't want no problems with you, champ. This is our problems with these dudes. All right, look. So y'all, without further ado, we're gonna bring on our guest. I mean, many of y'all know him. He's the only guest that we've had on the show with a Wikipedia page. I don't even know if he knew that about himself. Yeah, he got a whole Wikipedia page. I don't know how accurate it is, but he does have a whole Wikipedia page. So you know, so many of y'all know him, but I want him to introduce himself and be whoever he is in the space. So without further ado, we got Walter Kimbrough.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Doc. How you doing?
Busy. You got to juggle, you know, like our mock trial team actually is on the way to Memphis right now. They made it to the first, it's like several rounds, and this is the first national round. And this is the second time we've been at that level, which is good. Usually Howard does have a team this year, but they had to sort of get a special invitation. They didn't qualify like we did outright. So we the only HBCU that qualified outright to go to the mock trial championship round. But since my wife is one of the coaches, she's gone, which means that I got to do all the other stuff too. And so Benjamin had his tryout for AAU this year. So that was tonight. So I had to go pick him up for that. And then he's on an all-star team for NORD, which is the New Orleans Rec League. And they got a game this weekend, a tournament this weekend in Slidell. They won one 2 weeks ago. I can't remember where that tournament was, but they just won one, so they're about to play another one. So doing the basketball dad stuff right now.
How do you do with AAU?
He did their first year. So last year was their first year. They did okay in some tournaments. They got to work on some of their guard play. The team that he's on now, this all-star team, is really good. And their AAU team, they got so many kids try out. He said they're going to have 2 teams. So he's trying to figure out if he's going to be on the first team, which he is for one, or the second team. It just depends on how they stack the team. So if they spread it out a little bit, he'll probably be on the first team because he's a 3-point shooter for all of his teams. That's his specialty. He makes the most, he takes the most. So, if they want the outside shooting, he'll definitely be on that. But we'll see.
I got a whole college scholarship playing AAU ball.
Yeah, I remember you said that. Yeah, that's what I told him. So he enjoys it. This is good.
Look, but that's because I had a temper and I got pissed off at the high school coach, and I was like, "Well, I ain't coming here."
Yeah.
So, he upset me really bad. So I was like, I'll show him. But look, I appreciate you making time for me. And Kismet, I know you're expecting Brian, but Brian has some professional development activities come up, and I know that you're busier than all of us. So I didn't.
He ain't doing no. Tell Brian they ain't doing no professional development as Xavier. I ain't trying to hear
that. It might not have been through Xavier.
That's true.
Yeah, he got some psychological side hustles.
Right, yeah, that's right. No, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
So I don't know if you've seen the show before, but normally we drink and we encourage drinking and talking. So I don't know if you're drinking or not, but now's the time to pour up. I'm
talking right now. So
okay, yeah, we'll try to wrap before I get too messed up.
Okay,
that's what happens. Me and Brian will go on and I just talk a whole bunch of shit.
All right, so. For the sake of being formal, I know you all know each other very well. Dr. Kimbrough, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you affiliated? Where do you work?
Yeah, so for the next, how many more months? 3.5 months, I'm the president of Dillard University before I sort of step out there like Jeff and just try to figure out my life. So I got to call Iyanla. Tell me what to do
to fix my life.
Yeah, exactly. So I can figure it out. But yeah, I'm finishing 10 years at Dillard, which has been, like I said, it's been a real good 10 years. And I just think for me, I was somebody that didn't want to get stale. And I'm probably a little bit jaded because I've been a president for 18 years, and I watched folks like literally retire on the job where they just like collecting the check. And I ain't never want to be that guy. I mean, I wouldn't be like that now, but it's like we've done so many things. Things are really good. It's like, all right, you got to challenge yourself. I mean, it's real comfortable to stay here. You know the people. You know how to move. A lot of stuff I can do with my eyes closed. Got a good team of folks. That makes it sort of easy. Even when you have stuff like Ida, which like was crazy, and the whole city loses power, you got good people in place to try to make that work. So it wasn't even as stressful as it could have been. Mm-hmm. So when you got that, it's sort of like, all right, how do I challenge myself? What's new? What's out there? What's different? So I'm gonna finish this up, and hopefully it'll be a model for some people, particularly for some younger people that I mentor that are talking about this too. Not to just try to stay somewhere forever and collect a check, because I've watched people actually harm institutions by doing that. And I would never be that dude. I mean, I had a max time of being here 15 years anyway, and I just decided, no, 10 is good. I'm gonna go on and do the 10. But I came in knowing there was going to be a time limit.
I feel like I helped play a little bit into that decision and push it along after we had lunch. And I told you,
you were just one of the, like, all throughout the summer I kept getting these messages telling me like you got to go on and do something else. So that was one. I'm sitting down with Jeff and he was like asking me like, so I need to ask you this, like, how do you know when it's time to go? And I'm sitting there like, God damn, what the? I'm just like, man, it's just like all these little signs. It's just like, I just did not expect that. And it just messed me up. And I was like, I'm having these conversations with people. I'm talking to Janetta Cole, who had been president of Spelman, and she like, look, you need to go. I'm just talking to all kind of people. And then I didn't expect that from Jeff. So that like caught me completely off guard. So it's just when you get enough of those signs consistently, you just like, all right, I know what I got to do. So
I know, because we at least go to lunch like once at least once or twice a year.
Yeah.
I remember before I was before I asked before I proposed to my wife, I sought wise counsel from all all the happily married men that I knew.
Right.
And you was the only black man that was like, yeah, go on and get married. Every black man that I've ever talked to was like, nah, don't do that.
Oh, really? Oh,
everyone.
No, you get the right partner. It's like I said, it's a lot of fun. So it's like today, so I'm teaching this class, and Jeff has been part of my class. We look at hip hop, sex, gender, ethical behavior. And last night we partnered with the Broad Theater to show Notorious, because yesterday was the 25th anniversary of Biggie's death. So I'm like, on that day, I want to watch the movie. And I watched it differently last night. It's just, there are a lot of religious references in the movie that I didn't really pay attention to, but thinking about it from a philosophical perspective, it stood out to me very differently. And I think when the movie first came out, I didn't see it on the big screen. And that made a big difference too. Just with all of that up there, it was really powerful. But then today in class, we talked to Cheo Hoderi Coker, who wrote the screenplay, who wrote the book called Unbelievable about Biggie. He was a hip hop journalist with Vibe. And so he interviewed Biggie more than anybody. So he talked to class today. So those are the kind of things. So I've been just looking. So yesterday I was reading all the different articles about, people commemorating 25 years. And then I found out that the Indianapolis Symphony, the guy who's a conductor, he does what he calls these mixtapes. He takes classical music and intertwines them with hip hop. So he's doing one now that combines Biggie and Tupac. And I heard a little piece of it, and I was like, this is crazy. It was, so Jeff knows how I am. When I see stuff like that, I'm like, I'm about to reach out to dude to see if he'll talk to my class. So he emailed me and he was like, yeah, I'll do that. I would love to talk. So they're doing the symphony in Indianapolis next Wednesday. And I was going to just go next Wednesday, but my son has something at school. And I asked my wife, I was like, okay, can I blow this off and go to the symphony on next Wednesday? She was like, no. But then he said, the guy emailed me, he said, but we're doing it in Baltimore on April the 2nd. So then I emailed her and I was like, okay, April 2nd, we're going to Baltimore. She was like, okay, I'm going. So that's what you want, somebody who's just like, yeah, we just gonna go to Baltimore and listen to this symphony that's including Biggie and Tupac. Yeah. So when you got a partner like that, it can be a lot of fun. You balancing the duties, but somebody who really can appreciate stuff like that, where I'm like excited and she like, Trip, let's go. We there. So yeah, man, that's been, I think, the good thing. And she's worked in higher ed, she worked on campus. So when you got a lot of things in common, it works out well.
That's what's up. Kismet, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking about it. I'm hype about that symphony thing. Like, I want to know where else they're going to be.
Yeah, he needs to do it some other places, because I just heard him do this interview, and it's the Indianapolis Symphony. And the guy, I'll look up his name. He's done like one with Kendrick Lamar where he mixed it with. He's like in the hip hop, but he's got symphonies back in it. It reminds me, like, I don't know if you've heard like the New Orleans Jazz Orchestra. We went, this was Valentine's weekend, right before that weekend. They did sort of like a tribute to Anita Baker. And so they basically used the Jazz Orchestra did Anita Baker tunes and Erica Falls sang. It was nice. It was really nice. So they do stuff like that from a jazz perspective. And so he's using
what was the one that Nas did a couple years ago?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Nas has done some stuff with the I guess that was in New York. That's a part of the
that was Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
He did it at Carnegie.
Yeah, Carnegie, right. It's part of the Kennedy Center, because I think for the last year they had Q-Tip was like the artist in residence. Mm-hmm. And so, and they're doing some stuff, I think, this spring with Black Girls Rock, Beverly Bond, because I talked to her, because actually they might do something. I don't know. I haven't heard yet. I need to check, because I'm trying to get a hookup from her, because I want to go see what they do with Black Girls Rock. But they've done stuff like MC Light has performed with them before, but they've done that. But yeah, this dude has done several of what he calls these mixtapes. And he takes classical, and this one is sort of like about death. And it made sense, because I think the symphony that he's doing is sort of about like death and resurrection. I think it's called the Resurrection Mixtape. So then you got Biggie and Tupac. Dude, he on something. But like I said, he emailed me right back. He was like, yeah, please come. So
all right, so I want to talk about alignment real quick.
Okay.
Like you saying that right now. So like I don't know how far you're going to get into your unemployed journey, right? But
that's what everybody said. If I could take a year, ideally, if I could take a year off and do nothing but like travel, speak when I want to, that would be good.
Well, as you can see,
I doubt it though. I don't know.
If you can see this right here, like you could tell that I ain't been nowhere.
Right.
But look, I want to, like alignment. So at some point in time, and this is the phase that I'm in my unemployment journey, that I've gotten to a phase of alignment where like I've been speaking things and like the universe, God, however you want to put it, has been dropping hints. So when you said this about and I'm just going to say it because if somebody steal it, I don't care. But as long as it's getting done, right? When you said this, me and my wife were talking, and there's some anniversaries going on, and it's the 50th anniversary for Liberty in November, right? And it's the 25th anniversary of Juvenile 400 Degrees. And I wanted to bring both those things together. Like I wanted the orchestra to perform with Juvenile's 400 Degrees. And like you saying that to me, that's alignment, right?
Yeah.
Like that's crazy because that's what I would like to happen. I would like for Juvenile to be in the tux and the orchestra go wah, 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 and then he come out and like start rapping. Like I think that would be amazing.
Yep.
And so that's some of the stuff that I want to put out in the world.
It could be done. Like I said, it could be done because this dude is doing it big time. He's doing it big time.
If you listen to I went back to listen to 400 Degrees just to make sure it was even possible, right? And like when you listen to it, man, Manny Fresh has a lot of classical instruments.
Yeah.
Even when you listen to Back That Ass Up,
right?
Yeah.
It's a bounce beat over it, but there's a lot of classical instrumentation that goes.
It's strings. Yeah, it's strings. Well, this guy basically he says when they're asking him how you did this, he said music. It's only 12 notes. He said it's only 12 notes, so you can make all this work together because you're talking about 12 notes. And so I was like, as somebody who I started playing the piano when I was 8. So I understand music like that. And so, dude was like, it's just 12 notes. And so his name is Steve Hackman. I'm pulling up his stuff right now. This dude is like, he's on something crazy with the stuff that he's doing. But when I saw this thing, I was like, oh, see. But he's done like with rock groups like Radiohead. He's done, mixing, Radiohead with classical. Let me see. When Igor Stravinsky, he called it Igor Damn Stravinsky, and that's using Kendrick Lamar. Then he's got one from Beethoven to Beyonce, Tchaikovsky versus Drake. Beethoven versus Coldplay, Brahms versus Radiohead. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that this dude is. I mean, he's doing some really crazy stuff, and I just heard a little bit, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I gotta go see this." So yeah, we're going to Baltimore.
That's what I think I'm gonna be at Dreamville Fest that weekend.
Oh yeah.
I'm making my way up. I'm being your neck of the woods. Kismet actually. So you don't know Kismet, Dr. Kimbrough, but Kismet is one of the reasons why I graduated college.
Okay.
And he's one of the men that like pulled me in. He gave me a job and was like, "Nah, you gonna come work for me." We talked earlier that he fired me from said job as well.
Okay.
Me with Mac computer parts, which is a sore subject for me. But yeah, so like he's and when you were in higher ed, like these are the blur, like he blurred some lines with me, definitely, right? So I'm gonna ask you about this because Kismet was the one that while I'm in school, he throws me the keys to his car and is like, "Yo, I need you to go to the store and get me this while I'm working. Come bring it back." And he had like a luxury car at that time, so I'm listening to Nas and riding around my neighborhood with it. You know what I'm saying? And he was always like, "Nah, just come over to the house and we're gonna go in the garage and we're gonna talk, we're gonna barbecue and do all this stuff." That shit don't happen in higher ed no more. Like you can't do that anymore. And I was wondering your thoughts on those types of relationships in higher ed, and like, are we really making those relationships or those inroads with the students that need it the most?
Yeah, I think some people do. I think there probably is a level of hesitation now more than before, just because of how are things going to look? You have situations where people taking advantage of students and those kind of things. And so you can't just go roll and kick with people and people not, asking questions. Like I was thinking today, I was like, man, can I find somebody who can give me a grant so my class could go to Baltimore to see this thing? You know what I'm saying? Because it ties in with the class. It's like, man, I need like 15 grand and we could all go and they could have the experience. See, that would be safer because it's all of them, not just me and just picking like 3 or 4 of them because, that's just, so I think it does hurt some of those relationships. I don't know. I think, the issue I think I'm having now, and I'm on like this task force with Complete College America, and UNCF is doing the same thing. Everybody's trying to replicate this HBCU experience, do it virtually and online. And I'm just like, damn, y'all, you can't do everything online. Just because you put up a website and you say you got some Black folks does not make it an HBCU. It's the relationships. I mean, the shit don't work if you don't have a relationship part too. That's what people not understanding. I'm just like, you just think somebody's going to be a part of a class and you go to school completely online. You're going to have a relationship with your faculty. No, who's going to write those letters of recommendations? And those things still count. I mean, I'm writing some this week for students who want to be part of the White House initiative, their HBCU Scholar Program. You have to have the president sign off on that. So if you're a completely virtual student, how are you going to know somebody well enough for them to write you a letter of recommendation to do that? You're not. So it's, it just scares me. It needs to be like supplemental. It's like you got the base of the relationship and you can do some stuff online. But when you try to put all of it out there, the stuff that you're talking about is going away. And that's going to even be a bigger shift. And then more Black students are going to miss out on stuff because there's stuff that all of us have learned from people that is outside of the regular class experience. And, I was in DC for UNCF last week. And one of my students from Philander actually is working in DC now. He was at the banquet and he came up to me. He was like, I just want to thank you for writing that letter to medical school for me. He said, I had to delay it. I'm going to go later on. But I mean, I hadn't seen Michael I left 2012, almost 10 years. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's stuff like that for him to be like, I know it's late. It's 10 years later, but I got to thank you for doing blah, blah, blah. Those are the kind of relationships that I think are important. And I think as a society, when we try to push everything online without the relationship, like I said, we don't have the same kind of, conversation if I don't know Jeff. Yeah. I'm going to be looking at y'all sort of different. Like, I don't really know these dudes if I can really talk. Well, I don't know for me because I talk crazy to everybody. But it's different when you have relationships.
Kismet taught me not to mix brown and white outside the classroom.
Somebody got to teach. I learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
And to go back to what Jeff was saying about the blurred lines, I think part of that was I was early in my professional career, so I could have just have been naive. But I think the other side of that was just who I am as a person. If we're going to be spending this time together and working, we need to have a relationship and a bond and some type of camaraderie. And I think I created a culture that allowed people to one, be themselves, and then two, for us to be able to speak freely. So even though we had personal relationships and Jeff and some of my other staff would tell you, we would have these brainstorming sessions when we were planning an event, and it became a thing to boo somebody. So like if somebody came up with an idea that, didn't seem like it would work well, somebody would always be in the background. Boo.
Right. Mm-hmm. I got booed a lot.
But it also it was an environment that it wasn't offensive. It was one that kind of challenged us to all be greater. And we were able to communicate in a way that even when there were difficult things to talk about, because that happened too, we won't get into that, Jeffrey, but there was difficult things to talk about. We could have those conversations but still be effective. We impacted the lives of hundreds of students in the area, and we see the ripple effect of those relationships today. I got a phone call from a student that just opened a restaurant in Charlotte not too long ago, and so I think building those relationships, and you said it yourself, Dr. Kimbrough, that relationship building makes a difference. And you can't just put these things out there and think it's going to have the same effect as where those relationships have been formed and there's bonds that are there. Like you have to have that in order to be effective. And I think that was part of the culture of the College Reach Out program, because we touched the students on campus and created an environment. Like there were students who knew us, even if they never even knew me personally, because other folks talked about it. So when they had an issue, they knew to come to our department.
Yeah, Kismet's the most famous black man in Pensacola. It's like Roy Jones Jr., Derrick Brooks, Kismet Rito. Now look, Doc, he's telling you about these hard conversations, but you know how he would deliver these hard conversations? He's not going to say it because he's just meeting you and he's trying to make a good impression. But he would come in the office and be like, "Hey, Jeff, you're fucking up. That's what you're fucking up. Let me tell you why." And he would just get on me, and I'm like, I'm young and impressionable, but honestly, that tough love is what I needed to graduate from school. And and when you see me interact with the students, honestly, you see Kismet, because that's who I am. Right. But when you think about like those relationships, because the last year I was at Dillard, you were talking about a relationship economy, and that's what we're living in, right? But like so if the current landscape of higher education is to make things accessible for students, and which means putting them on putting a lot of stuff on the internet, what does that mean for like campus and like the value of that college degree? Because the degree to me is the paper and the actual like classroom learning. But there's so much more than that. The outside of the classroom is the thing that makes you successful in life, to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's I gotta do something, I guess next week after next, or a week and a half, for NASPA. They're doing an HBCU thing, and talking about the future HBCUs. And there is research that I remember as a grad student that talked about at least half of what students learn, they learn outside of class. So that's why I'm like, people just feel like we're going to replicate everything online. People are going to join organizations online and do it. No, they not. That's not. That's what I was thinking today. I was driving around like, I wonder if anybody has, since the pandemic started, created a completely online Black church. Like we're a Black church. We completely online and everything we do. I'm curious, because that's what they're trying to do essentially, is say we're going to create an HBCU experience and just be completely online. And I don't think that is possible. It's, particularly because the online mentality is very different. The Southern New Hampshire University, the president there says, I want to be the Amazon of higher education. That's not about relationships. It's about, we sit here, we talk about a book. I'm like, man, that sounds good. I pull out my phone, I pull up my app, I go to Amazon and buy it. That's it. It's straight. It ain't no relationship there. It's straight transactional. And for Black people, everything is not transactional. It's like, who do you know connected? That's the kinds of things I do for my class. I'm able to have lots of different guests every week. Some of it is I'm leveraging the title. So when somebody gets an email from somebody saying, hey, I'm the president of Dillard, it doesn't matter what I'm the president of. It's the president took time out to reach out to me and say, hey, will you do blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, saying like, so for this coming week, this is when we talk about the strip clubs.
I was going to get to that too, Dr. Kimbrough, because I think that we got something here.
So look, the strip club. So it's like, so if you think about hip hop and you start talking about, some people talk about the 4 elements. I talk about 5 because I include the knowledge. And if you talk about breaking as a physical element of hip hop, breaking doesn't exist anymore. To me, the physical element of hip hop is the strip club. And I want to write something and make that case and argue that. I've talked to some scholars, they're just like, no, that doesn't. I'm like, yes, it is. There is no more breaking. The physical element is in the strip club. And so there's a young lady that I read about in Houston that sued this strip club because they were discriminating against Black girls. And this happens other places too. So I'm reaching out to this girl. So I'm tracking her down, talking to the person from the Houston Chronicle who wrote the article. So I reach out to them to say, hey, I'm trying to find Chanel because I want to invite her to my class. They pass me on to her attorney who passes me on to her. And she just happened to be able to talk to somebody. She emailed me this week like, oh man, I'm so excited to be able to do this. You just creating the relationships. And so then I saw on Instagram this woman who is the brand manager for Magic City. And if you know anything about Magic City, it's the gold standard for strip clubs, my hometown of Atlanta.
I do.
So, so I reached out to her like, hey, I got this class. You know, one of the dancers, Coy, has done my class twice. She's like, oh, I know Coy. So now we got somebody in common. So she like, hey, I'm gonna do your class. How many dancers do you need? It's all about the relationships, and people don't understand, particularly young people. They just feel like I'm gonna do some stuff, put it on a resume, and then somebody gonna come find me. Well, hell, it's a lot of people that got a great resume. What's gonna be the difference between your resume and somebody else's? Somebody that knows somebody who is just like, no, this is my dude right here. Put them on. And people don't understand that. That's the thing I'm trying to get students to understand that. There's a guy, Anthony Abraham Jack. He spoke for our Faculty Staff Institute a few years ago. He wrote a book called The Privileged Poor. And he basically said that some Black kids feel like they don't want to have those relationships with administrators because they feel like that's brown nosing trying to get ahead. And white kids like, shit, that's how you get ahead. I'm trying to know everybody. So we got to get it out of our head to be like, I don't need those relationships. They understand it coming in because that's how they watching it. That's how all you got to do is look at the Trump administration. All the people around there got something because they were connected. None of them were qualified. Not damn one of them was qualified. In Atlanta. Damn one qualified. But they were related. So the girl who planned which one? Eric's wedding. She high up in the doggone, I don't know, was it EPA or public urban housing? And then Ben Carson, who don't know nothing about, they say he lived in public housing. He qualified to run it. You know what I'm saying? But it's a relationship. And so we got to get people to realize like it's a relationship economy. The technology is important, but if you don't know nobody, that's a problem. So then we can't just track all the Black people, which they've been put them in all of the for-profits. That's hurting Black people. Not you getting cheated out of a lot of money and you ain't got no relationships. So what you got? Nothing. You spend a lot of money to get a piece of paper and you can't even navigate with that paper that you got.
And you know what? I can honestly say at 47 years old that every job I have ever had came from me knowing somebody. Like that somebody may not have had the power to hire me, but they introduced me to the situation or the opportunity that existed, or and even in some of those cases, the people knew me and said, you know what, Kisman, I know your work, I'm going to hire you.
Yep.
And every job, even down to the little part-time hustles I've done, the 2-bit jobs that I may have had in between this and that. Those things all came because I knew somebody. Hey man, I'm looking for some work. They put me on, or I'm trying to do this. They introduced me to the person who could do that. Yep. And we have to build those relationships. And I think that was part of the role that we served at UWF, was that we were the hub for the resources on that campus. Because in anything that our department couldn't do, we knew somebody in student affairs. We knew somebody in financial aid. We knew somebody, and we could leverage our personal relationships with those people to make sure that the students got things taken care of. Yeah. And in situations where it was beyond them, we could have those frank conversations with them. And it meant more coming from me to say, well, you know what? And Jeff, I'm gonna use you as the example. You know what, Jeff? You can't have your financial aid because of this. Now, had you been going to class and not withdrawn and kept your completion ratio up, you know, you're going to be okay. You would have been
using me as an example, but that's a real story.
But he could take that conversation better coming from me than a stranger in financial aid saying, you're not going to get this money, and so get out of my office. There's nothing else I can do for you.
Right. And if the stranger did tell me that, guess what was going to happen? I was going to go to Kisman and be like, yo, this for real? Yeah. Now look, it's 2 points that I do want to make. Like, so I did say that Kismet fired me, but Kismet did like start my career in higher education because he was the one who said, yo, I got an advising job at the community college for you. It's set up like you're good, like just go in, interview, and like you're fine. Like you're a Black man and you can advise. I said, I don't know how to advise anybody. And he was like, you put your own schedule in, didn't you? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, all right, same thing, go. Mm-hmm. And you know, they let me work it out on the job. And then two, I want to get back to this Magic City conversation real quick, because I do think, because I don't know if y'all know this, I wanted to do my dissertation on strippers and their degree completion rate percentage, and nobody, and like they turned that down at my school. They're like, hell no, you can't do that. And I was like, well, that to me, like, you know, because this is one of the myths I'm debunking. Like, are you paying your way to school? And if you are paying your way through school, how is, you know, is that effective? Or is, you know, the line of work that you have detrimental to your graduation rate, right? I was going to figure it all out, but they wouldn't let me do it. But I think, Dr. Kimbrough, I'd love to shoot a documentary on this. And I think that we could do that.
Look, let me tell you. So did I share with you, you know, GQ did a 20-minute documentary about Magic City? Have you seen that? Oh, I'm gonna email it to you. I show it before we talk to the strippers. It's a 20-minute documentary that GQ did about Magic City. They got Future in it. They talk about Magic City Mondays. They got some of the girls talking about the money. They got DJ Esco talking about the music. They got Lil Magic, whose daddy started it. He's interested because he was just like, you know, he uses this term because it's completely new. He say these people, they asshole naked. He like, it's just butt naked.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. But see, you're mentioning that. I want to go spend a year in strip clubs and talk to people, because when maybe right before the pandemic,
Doc, let's do it.
I'm telling you, look, I was right before the pandemic. A brother from my chapter, I was in Atlanta. I said, Spoon, we going to V Live tonight. They had just opened up a V Live in Atlanta. I said, we're going to V Live to talk to some of the strippers because I need some background for my class. And he was like, oh, get out of here. You just want to go. I'm like, no. And he realized, like, we sitting there talking to these girls, figuring out how much money they got, you know, and you hear some of the horror stories too, because this one girl, she started stripping when she was 15 in Holly Springs, Mississippi. And that's where Rusk College is. And I'm thinking, how in the hell do they have strip clubs in Holly Springs? But definitely then when you
working at 15.
At 15, that's the other issue too, because they telling me the whole game in Atlanta, you got to go to the police station, get a license. It costs you several $100s. They talked about how much, you know, you're going to be able to take home once you get a house person the money to DJ them. I mean, they bringing out all, and this one girl told me, she said, and I verified it. She said the strip club industry is the biggest industry in Atlanta. It's bigger than the Braves, the Falcons, and the Hawks combined. And she ain't lying. She ain't lying. There's some research to back that up. But I heard the strippers telling me this, and I'm like, you got to be lying. And I'm verifying it. So it's some interesting, because they're talking about the people who are investing money and doing these other businesses, and you got all these girls in there making six figures a year. Strip.
Hey, I took my wife to the strip club for the first time she went. I took her. Right.
Where'd you go?
We went to Magic City.
Oh, okay.
And look, she was like, "Oh, I see, I understand." Because she was like, "Yo," it was so funny because she was so nice and like polite, like she was like a stripper fairy, like she was like sprinkling money on girls, like just really nice. Like it was really beautiful. If they would have let me take pictures or video, I would have. Like it was really just sweet and sentimental. And she was like, "Yo, I understand now," you know, because like us growing up in Florida, the strip club was just the annex of the club, because the clubs closed down where we are at like 1 o'clock in the morning, but the strip club stays open till 3, and you could continue to party at the strip club at 3. So for me, it's just like another extension of the club, you know. And one of my homeboys' dad owned the strip club, so I want to tell you, I was sneaking in there like at a young age. But I would like to document that. Like, I think that if we went around the world to do that, I'm with it. You just let me know.
It's so much. There's some fascinating people. And I try to tell people every time I do the class and I have strippers participate in class, them girls talking. They have a ball. I mean, you cannot get them to stop talking, because it's sort of like you got somebody actually wants to listen to them talk about how they got into it. I mean, we ask some hard questions like, what are the ethical issues that you're dealing with when you out there? You know, what do you tolerate? How do you deal with this music that's so misogynistic and you dance? And how do you, I mean, it's fascinating to see how they think about what they're doing. And it's always fascinating. It is
one of the things that you didn't mention in that GQ documentary, you mentioned all these other people, but they didn't necessarily have scholars in the documentary.
No, there were no scholars as a part of this.
But that's why I'm saying, like, that's why
there's no. Yeah, and I gotta look. I know there are people who have done some things like on the sex economy, but I'm at a position now where like you had this girl in New York, Giselle, who did this stripper strike, where they were just like,
I was in class for that. I was in class.
It was like, but so I read about her in the Washington Post. I reached out to her. I was in New York during UNCF when they did a they had a demonstration at, I guess it was Washington Square Park. So I was able to videotape it and then share with my class before she came to speak. And then she spoke to my class last year, along with this girl out in Vegas. And then this girl who dances at this club. There's a club in Washington, D.C. called Assets. And it's the only strip club, I think, that is run by a Black woman. She's a young Black woman. She's in her 30s. So I'm trying to meet her because I was in D.C. last week trying to figure out if I could meet her then when I was there for UNCF. I mean, here I'm at the business meeting trying to figure out how I can go to the strip club. I mean, this is what I'm saying.
You weren't the only one,
right? But it's like I mean, those are some fascinating stories that I don't think are being told, and I think it sort of could demystify what people think of. Because, like I said, when you got a stripper saying there are some basic rights that we should have, basic benefits that we should have in this industry that brings in so much money. It's like, man, she's making some good points. You know what I'm saying? That we don't think about it like that.
I think they should have insurance.
Yeah, that's what she's saying. All of that, health insurance, all of that.
And then look, my idea. I'm not smart enough to do it, but an idea though, because I was planning my homeboy's bachelor party. Do you know how hard it is to find people to come, like especially strippers, to come to a place? Mm-hmm. Like it's rather difficult, right? Because you got to know somebody. Like I had to put feelers out. All these places.
You got to have relationships.
You got to have relationships.
Yep.
So like I had to use all the relationships I could, right? But I was like, man, it's really hard. But I know that they do this work, and this is another form of payment. So like, what if there was an app that insured them and allowed them to be booked with security and all that stuff? Because I'm sure it's stressful for them, because if they're going out of town or going to somebody's house, like they need to bring security with them, right?
Yeah, they need security, right?
Yeah. So like, what if we could marry all those two together? And if you put that in motion, just make sure I get like 2%. That's all I need.
There's a lot that could be. I think it's always fascinating. But like I said, to me, I've just realized how many people are honored to be able to share what they do with students, and we just don't ask. I mean, I think in higher ed sometimes we get too. I don't know what the word I want to use for this is. But we don't want to listen to certain people because we feel like we scholars and I got a PhD, and I'm like, yeah, I got a PhD, but there's some people who live in some experiences that are very powerful that students could learn from. And how do we measure that in to use the research and then keep it relevant? That's why I tell those students in my class, every semester I teach this class is different. I got the same themes. I know I'm gonna talk about the music industry, but like this year for the music industry, there's a brother who teaching at Florida State. He's doing his PhD at FAMU, and he talks about the hip hop industry. He was on the front page of the Tallahassee paper like 2 weeks ago, and I saw it on Twitter, and I was like, I'm about to do the segment on the music industry. Reached out to that brother. He was like, I'm there. He spent a whole hour with us. And then on top of that, I don't know if you saw the book by Jay Prince. Jay Prince had a book that came out a couple years ago. Okay. And I've been trying to get Jay Prince to talk about the industry. I got Jay Prince to come to class. And I'm telling the students, like, y'all don't understand.
Man, this
is rap a lot.
Why you ain't text me?
I'm like, y'all, this is because it was last week I was in DC. So I'm like, I'm in DC and he's in Houston. And then Maurice is in Tallahassee. Yeah, we talked to Jay Prince.
That's crazy.
It was fascinating because if you read, I'm halfway through the book is fascinating as well. But how many people you can go to a music industry class, and you can hear all the theory, but how many music industry classes get to hear from the man who started Rap A Lot? That's what I'm saying. It's like no professor can give you what he can give us in 45 minutes. Your professor can't give me that in 5 weeks. You know what I'm saying? It's just no way in the world. He don't have the experience where this man started something from scratch. If you read his book, you'll understand it, and then listen to him. That's a class all by itself.
It's a difference between theory and practice.
It sure is.
Now look, I'm gonna tell you though. Like I remember because when I first got to Dillard, right, the alumni were so angry at you because you brought Superhead.
Yeah, that's my girl though.
Come do a lecture.
That's my girl.
And they were so mad and they couldn't understand why you brought a porn star to, and that's what they said. And I was like, well, who was it? Let me know. Right. And he was like, oh yeah, the Superhead. I was like, oh well, she's not a porn star. She's a video vixen. Who just
funny. Some of the male alums, they were just like, oh, some of them just mad because they know they were doing that when they were at Dillard. They just didn't know how to get paid to do it. It was funny. Some people had me rolling. They were just like, they just jealous. So, but then you had some students just like, but I told people when she was in there, that room was packed, 400 some people sitting on the floor, and you could hear a rat piss on cotton. I mean, that's how much. So it's like, once again, people just like, oh, we can't have certain people. It's just like this girl, and she said in her lecture, she was like, everybody came to hear about the sex. Y'all don't want to hear about the abuse I dealt with. And my mom, she said, my husband breaking my nose is not the first time I've been hit. My mom had been abusing me. So they just felt like she was going to talk. She didn't talk about that. She's talking about being in abusive relationships and how do you, because it was October Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I brought her there to talk about domestic violence. And they want to discount her because, oh, well, she slept with Bobby Brown, all these other people. But we need to hear that story. And I had her speak at Philander as well. And every time she speaks, there's always some young ladies who want to talk to her on the side and have this conversation because they in some mess.
Yeah.
So she can reach some people that some of these highfalutin people will never be able to reach. And that's the point. You gotta have a range. If I'm trying to reach the students, I can't reach everybody. But there's some people that Corinne can reach that I can never reach. But my relationship is with her. So if that works and I can help those students out, I'm gonna call Corinne and be like, hey, I got somebody I need you to help me with.
And you know what? My dad told me growing up that you have to be able to go from the outhouse to the White House in order to be successful. And if you can't navigate in whatever environment that you're in, you're going to always meet roadblocks and run into walls that stop you from progressing. So you got to be able to do all that. Like, and Jeff was talking about my car. Back in the day, I got locks. I had my ears pierced and all of that stuff. I got rims on my car. Mm-hmm. Part of that was, those are fashion trends that I like, but they also allowed me to be in these low-income housing projects where I was serving these students and be relatable and still be able to hold conversations with them and show them that, you don't have to take these negative paths in order to be successful. You can go to school, you can do this, you can be whoever you want to be. And so you have to be able to leverage that, which that actually leads me to my question for you, Dr. Kimbrough. It sounds like you have some ideas and plans for what you're going to do once you leave your role as president. But in that, could you reflect for us and let us know what your legacy has been in the 10 years that you were at Dillard's? As a president, what legacy do you think that you would leave the campus to take and grow from?
Yeah, for me, I always define it differently than a lot of people. Yeah, I know people who want to have their name on all kind of stuff. I fell out with the former president of Philander Smith, the one before me. She got upset with me because I got there and realized there was a whole lot of stuff that was messed up, and we got to clean up. And then the Chronicle of Higher Education did this front page article about me, and she was mad. And I was like, well, shit, I didn't lie. I mean, it's like I had the Department of Ed sending me letters saying y'all might owe $11 million. I wasn't here when all this stuff happened. So if I got it cleaned up and I don't have to pay them back $11 million, now you're trying to tell me I can't take credit for fixing stuff that you messed up. And so we had a meeting that summer after she just went off and had their board chair wrote me an ugly. I mean, I had people write me ugly letters, and then I had to write an ugly letter to some guy with the United Methodist Church. I just had to drag him because I was just like, you shouldn't have got in this fight because you don't even know half of it. So just get out the way. But we had a meeting because they were trying to have us on the same page. And this is probably why I don't talk about legacy, because I asked her basically like, so what do you want? She was like, your job is to protect my legacy. Mm-hmm. Damn, that was my job. Mm-hmm. It ain't about the school. My job was to protect her legacy. And I'm sitting there like, oh, wow. Oh, okay, all right, whatever. I'm just like, I'm done now. So it's like people get caught up in that. And I think for me, the legacy has to be living so that the kinds of things that students that I've interacted with over these 10 years, what we start seeing them do in 10, 20, 30 years will be the legacy part. So I always reference like one of my students from Albany State, her name is LaJoy. LaJoy was in my freshman honors orientation class. When I took a job at Philander, she sat in my office and cried. She was a junior. She decided when she finished Albany State the next year, she was going to come to Arkansas, University of Arkansas, so she could be out there with us to go to law school. She gave my daughter her middle name. Both their middle name is Nicole, so she gave her middle name. When she got engaged, she texted me a picture of the ring, and I said, okay. And she said, Doc, you ain't gonna say congratulations? I was like, no, because I don't know him. And so we had to have dinner with him because I was like, I don't know this dude. So I ain't gonna say congratulations if I don't know him. I got to feel him out myself. We went to the wedding. And so in December, she became the first woman to be a judge in Augusta, Georgia. At the same time, she became the first Black person to be a judge in Augusta. Now, Augusta is a Black city. So to be the first woman and the first Black person to be a judge, and she is, LaJoy, not even 40 yet. And when she's sitting, standing there being sworn in, giving her speech, she crying and she thanking me and my wife. I'm like, that's the legacy piece right there. That's what I'm talking about. Because then she's saying, I got to where I am in part because of what you did for me. That's what I'm looking for. Those kinds of things where I can say, man, I played a role in shaping and molding this person to do these things. And so it becomes a living legacy. So those are the kind of things that I look more at that. The only tangible thing that I really like to take credit for is when I got to Dillard, we owed the government $156 million from the Katrina loan. Mm-hmm. And we got that forgiven. So if I ain't do nothing else, they gotta pay $156 million. So I feel like I ain't gotta do nothing else. $156 million. So man, that's the only tangible thing. I mean, it's other stuff too, but of those things, I take the most credit of that. But you're gonna start seeing some of these people, like one of them, Nicole Tenson. She was a Forbes 30 under 30. She was our senior class president 2014. Got Michelle Obama to speak for commencement. She part of the legacy. She like my child. You know what I'm saying? So those when you see some of those people that I know I had a hand in, that becomes part of the legacy. So that's what I think about. And not so much, because like I said, I got turned off on the stuff. I got this lady telling me like my job to protect her legacy. And I want to tell her like, well, you messed up your legacy because you did shady stuff. So it's not my job to fix what you messed up. That's not, but my job, I guess, was to sort of cover it up and fall on the sword for her and make it look like I did something. And I'm just like, I wasn't even here. So I can cover for you on that. You know what I'm saying?
And I don't even know you like that, lady.
I don't know you like, right. I don't know you like that. So it's like, they did a story and I was just saying, look, here are the things that we did and we fixed in this short amount of time. And they were like, cool, you got this I was 37 when I became the president. You got a young guy comes in, cleans up all this stuff. And she got offended because they did this story on me cleaning up her mess. Yeah. And we never I was very careful not to name her or just try to throw her under the bus. But, if you got a sanction from AAUP, from the faculty union for pissing off everybody, and I got that cleared up, hell yeah, I'm taking credit for that. Because you pissed them off, and I got them to take us off their little list, their censure list, because I know how to work with people, and you didn't know how to work with people. So it was just smoothing out the relationship. I didn't have to pay no money because the person was already fired. I just smoothed out the relationship and got us off a censored list. Yes, I'm taking credit for that.
Hey, and look, that $156 million for Dillard, you had to take a lot of flack for that because you had to go to the Trump house.
Man, let me tell you, you had to go, but I was like, and I didn't have to deal with him directly. I actually, most people didn't really want to deal with Betsy DeVos, but I give her credit. When we met and talked about that, old girl sat up in the meetings and paid attention. I met with her twice. So she gets some credit. Like I said, some other stuff she and I ain't gonna never agree on, but on this, she did a solid. She was like, yep, we need to fix this. And she supported it. So but he didn't ever really take credit for that. He took credit for stuff that never happened. And I had to keep calling him like, dude, that's not true. If he would have just leaned in and said, I cleared the debt, we couldn't have said nothing. We could have been like, yeah, he right. That's all I can say. Like,
Right.
credit for that. He never wanted to take credit for that, and that was tangible. It was real. He took credit for stuff that he didn't do, and that was just confusing to me.
Well, because it made him feel better, or it made him look better.
Yeah, right. Because he wanted to make it bigger than that. But I'm like, for those 4 schools, this was big. This was a big deal, and he didn't want to take credit for that. So he just started making those stuff that he did, and I was like, no, dude, I'm not gonna let you lie. Right. But like I said, Betsy DeVos, she get a point. Like I said, she gonna get a lot of criticism, but on that, she did the right thing. Like I said, I sat in the meeting. I thought she was gonna be there for like 5-10 minutes. Half an hour later, she's still there trying to understand. I was like, okay, you doing your job.
Because look, there was probably no way in hell that Dillard could have paid back that money.
Oh, it was no. I realized that when I first got there, because when you have to start paying that money back, by right where we are right now, we would have to pay back basically a quarter of our income would have to go to the federal government before you pay any bills. There's not a school in the country, not even Harvard, that could get a government a quarter of their income off the top.
Can you share that number? What was that number?
It was like $9 million. So you're talking about $9 million off of like a $37 million budget. You can't. There's no way in the world. If I paid them $9 million, I would give no financial aid. That's basically, it would eat up all my financial aid off the top.
And then that would have been a whole nother can of worms.
That's right. You had it's like, I can't give y'all no financial aid because I got to give it all to the federal government.
Yeah.
It wasn't once you saw it scaled up and how they had it, because people try to say like, oh, they're gonna turn it into a grant. I was like, well, I'm looking here at a contract that says it's a loan, and I'm looking at the payment schedule. It ain't no grant in here. I'm like, I don't know what y'all talking about. I'm looking at the paperwork. So, when I first got there, we got a 5-year forbearance, which meant the government didn't make us pay for 5 years. And as soon as the 5 years was over, we got it forgiven. So basically, in my time here, I have to add it up. We paid part of a loan to the government from July of 2012 to March of 2013. So 9 months. That's it. That's all we paid.
I'm hoping that they do the same thing with my student loan.
They're trying to get them to start doing with the student. I think they probably will do something. It just depends. I don't know, but there's a lot of people pushing for student loan forgiveness.
Well, look, I'm about here having to either sell drugs or my body, one of the two. Just one sell faster.
No, what you need to do is start your own strip club. Learn from Magic City, because I'm telling you, them girls make some money. They do like these vignettes on a Magic City. They got a YouTube channel because I was watching for class. You got some girls like, how much you making in a night? 11,000, 15,000. They making keynote speaker money stripping.
That's
what I'm saying. That's the way they making keynote. They out there doing Michael Eric Dyson on the pole. That's what they doing. It's he's not speaking 5 nights a week.
And I hope that Michael Eric Dyson hears this.
Yeah, I need to call him and tell him. But
it is my hope that he can take that.
It's like him speaking 5 nights a week, even though he can get more than that now. But you got a major speaker who's getting, they're not speaking 5 nights a week. They doing this 5 nights a week, every day of the year, or every week of the year. And on some nights, I found out like tax season coming up, tax day, big day.
Like whenever they have like a big college game in Atlanta.
All the sporting events, Super Bowl, no matter who playing, where they playing, Super Bowl big. But I was surprised. And then one girl, we had a stripper last year in Virginia Beach, and so it's a military town. And she talked about there's certain times with their payday that was always big, military payday, big nights.
So look, I know you touched on it throughout our conversation, but like as we get ready to wrap and end, like what's next? I know that you had your hat in the ring for another presidency job, and then after that, how the thought of that not being the one,
right? And
then coming to now, like what are we looking at within this next year of Dr. Kimbrough's life?
Yeah, so I don't know. So, I've been in a couple of presidential searches. A couple I didn't get. One I probably was going to get, I dropped out because the geography didn't work. It was in a place where there weren't good schools for at least an hour away, which meant I would have to live in one city and my family in another. and none of us was feeling that. So I was like, but I really liked the job, and I was probably gonna get it. But I was just like, that's not gonna work. And it's got to be the right fit. I mean, it's interesting I had never been in a public search like the Southern search. And it's funny because you interview and then people see the name, they just like, oh shoot, he gonna get the job. And then when you don't get it, people looking like, well, what the hell are they doing? I said, you'll see. I should probably write it somewhere and save it because I know what's going to happen, and I should probably write it so when it happens, I can pull it out and be like, I predicted what was going to happen because I exactly know how this is going to go. But I had lunch with a guy a couple of weeks ago. He was like, I was praying you didn't get the Southern job. I was like, what? He said, no, you ain't need to be there. It's just, and I knew it's a lot that's going on there. So I was like, yeah, it was one of those things like, if God really wanted me to go deal with that, it's going to be a bear, but I'm going to go do it. But God going to have to tell me like, you going to go. And he was like, no, bro, this ain't you. You don't want to go there for that. So I'm still, like I said, I've had people talking to me about other searches. I turned down a couple other opportunities. I'm talking to a major nonprofit now. Their board chair texted me today because she wants to come to town and have another conversation. If that comes through, that's going to be a shocker for people because this is a big national nonprofit that everybody knows. So, I'm looking at stuff like that, but I'm trying to sort of like just sit back in the pocket and say, take a year, write a book or two. I mean, you got me thinking again. I'm just like, man, that strip club book would be like really.
I'm here to co-author.
And like I said, and now I got a contact with the brand manager of Magic City, so I can get in there now. You know what I'm saying? I got the contact to make this thing happen. So I didn't even think about that until now. So I
got people with cameras. I keep on telling
you. Exactly. So I mean, if I take a year or two, that probably would be taking a year. Probably would just be good, just for my own just mental health and just reset. So, I mean, I've never had a sabbatical. I'm telling people, I do like Michael Jordan, it's my year or two going to play baseball and then come back. So that's the way I'm thinking about it there. It's going to be my Michael Jordan type year and I'll do it like that. But, I don't know. I'm open to different opportunities and possibilities. But like I said, it's a relationships. I got people out there right now, like, somebody used to work for the Department of Ed. He like, I got some ideas. I'm gonna pitch your name. I got some ideas of things you should do. So I got people trying to find me stuff, like create jobs. Be like, I'm gonna see if they'll create a job where you can do a little of this and a little of that. It's the relationships. I haven't asked these people. They're just like, you got good skills. We need you doing X, Y, and Z. I've talked to people in the Department of Education in DC about doing something with them. I said no, but they need some help with HBCU. So I might circle back with them. I was on a call with them today about something else. So, that's still probably a possibility. I could go work for the Department of Ed. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do for the next year until I find the next campus to do. And when I find the right fit, then I'm gonna do another campus. But right now, I'm trying to be flexible.
I'll tell you, we hadn't talked since I left, right? But probably one of the greatest joys of my life right now. And I had to wrestle with this really, really, really hard because day to day I don't necessarily feel important, right?
Yeah.
And that's like your ego talking.
Right.
But I think as a man, you kind of need a little bit of ego to move forward in life, right? But I hadn't really felt important. And talking to my wife, she was like, "Yo, everything that you do around here is very important." Mm-hmm. You have the opportunity to raise your son, and raise the girls, and be a husband, and you're not hurting right now. And she was like, you got to be thankful for that opportunity. I know when I left the university, I think 3 different entities offered me a job, and I didn't take it because I didn't take any of them because they didn't feel right. Also, it was it was too soon. I wanted time to just sit and chill.
Yeah.
And now that I think that I found this alignment that I've been looking for, especially in this space that, you know what I'm trying to do? I'm Dr. Jeff in all these higher ed spaces and education spaces. And I'm trying to prove to myself now that I can be something other than Dr. Jeff.
Yeah.
And I gotta listen to the world and God and get in this alignment.
Yeah.
And the stuff that I've been focused on and where I've been putting my energy, in like creative pursuits,
Mhm.
they've been aligning. And you know, like I've gotten like, you know, I think like, you know, God doesn't really just he's not necessarily like GPS, like, oh, turn here. You know, I
Right.
think you get nuggets along the way,
Yeah.
and oftentimes we ignore them nuggets because we're
Yeah.
not really in tune. And right now, I'm super in tune and listening to these nuggets. So like, you know, you talking about the orchestra, that's one of my creative ideas that I had when I left, right?
No, look, I'm telling you, you definitely did. I love that idea. And like I said, it's
Hey, now the
it's one
issue
of
is
those,
I'm trying to figure out how I can make somebody else pay for it.
right. Yeah.
That's the
Right.
issue.
Yeah, no, exactly. But it's sort of like, and I didn't have any idea that you had that idea. So for me to share this story about this, it's one of those things where you just like, damn, I've been thinking about this, and this dude just basically said what I've been thinking about. Oh, I don't believe that's a coincidence. We talk about that in our house all the time. That's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
I was supposed to tell you that today.
I agree. And I also think that we were supposed to have this conversation about strippers and documentaries and
look, let me tell you, look, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it again because I'm just sort of like, wait a minute. I got front door access to Magic City right now.
And we had this conversation maybe 2 years ago. I don't know if you remember. We was outside of PSB and we had this conversation 2 years ago. And I was like, yeah, because I was telling you what my dissertation was going to be on.
Yeah.
No, and it was like, no.
Yeah, I know I got to play with that too.
So you let me know.
Yeah, I will. Like I said, I'm trying to figure it out. Like I said, I'm trying to be patient. I think that's the hard thing because I'm always used to having something to do, and I know
the most difficult thing.
It is. It's difficult. I even though I think it would be good for me to do nothing for a year and just like go speak. I was actually talking to a friend of mine. He was like, you know, my book will be 20 years old next year. So he was like, dude, you could do a book tour, 20th anniversary book tour, and make a killing. I was like, man, you right. You know what I'm saying? He said, you launched. I mean, he laid the whole thing out for me. I was like, dang, that's a good idea.
And let me tell you full circle, right? You ready? So this is actually kind of dope that like everybody's on this call. Kismet, you were the person that got me into college, right? But the person that kept me working in higher ed was Dr. Kimbrough from afar, and he ain't know it. When I was in grad school, I was studying, and he came along. And at that point, I was pledging a fraternity. And I read the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, is this dude still operating? Like, is he still like here? I didn't know how old you were at all.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh, he's the president of Dillard. And I'm at this job that I hate right now, like, you know, in Tampa. And I'm like, yo, I'm going to go work for Dr. Kimbrough. And I was like, that's it. And I'm going to make him be my mentor subtly. I'm just going to bother him, you know?
No, that's not, yeah.
And this is like a full circle moment. So this is dope. I really appreciate you doing this. I know that you could have been anywhere in the world, and I'm glad that you're here with us.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I was able to get on. Like I said, I had to try to run around and get this boy ready for his basketball stuff. But yeah, this is good. It gave me some other things to think about, so I appreciate it.
Look, all right. So go ahead, Kismet.
If y'all can indulge me, just want to ask a quick question. As a professional, I had a situation where I went to someone in the administration that was of a higher position. I'm trying to be tactful, of a higher position. And I asked, you know, hey, would you mentor me professionally and, you know, kind of help guide my career, do the things that I just don't know about. You know, I'd been successful to a point, but felt like there was more that I could achieve if I had the proper guidance. And this person told me, no, because I only know you in a social setting. And I said, right, that's why I'm coming to you in a professional setting to establish that and, you know, try to help me out. And again, I was met with no. So I was very disappointed by that. I had to, we had plenty of nights in the garage where, you know, I just spit flames and was just angry about it. But then I realized, you know, this person doesn't owe me anything. And it's not necessarily their responsibility to make sure that I'm successful professionally. So I got over that hump. But my question to you, Dr. Kimbrough, is how do you choose who you mentor?
Yeah.
You know, Because in your roles, clearly you've established relationships with students and faculty and have lifelong bonds and friendships with these folks. But there's also others that that relationship never really fostered.
Right.
So how do you figure that out?
That's a good question. I think that they sort of have to develop sort of organically. We used to do, when I was at Philander, we had a Black Male Initiative program, and we were trying to set up students with faculty, staff, mentors. And a lot of campuses do that. You sort of match people. Some do it more sophisticated than others. I think we borrowed a model from the University of Michigan. And then I was talking to Sean Harper, who's at Southern Cal, and he does a lot of work with Black men. He was like, "Oh, y'all stop doing that." And I started thinking about it differently. He says they got to just sort of develop organically. So it's like, Jeff could come to Dillard and say, "Yeah, you're gonna be my mentor." I can be like, "Nigga, I ain't got no time for you." It's just, I think that we had enough in common that we could connect. And then it was like certain things, like, just in terms of, the love of music together. And then he could come sit in for class. And I'm just like, well, dang, I got to go out of town. And Jeff can just be with the class. And he already had a relationship with the students. So it just sort of developed sort of organically. And I think it is easy, though, if you got a personal relationship. That to me would have made more sense for y'all to go from the personal to the professional. To me, that's easier. I get stuff like twice a month at least, somebody out the blue, like, will you mentor me? And I'm usually no, because I'm like, I don't know this person. I don't know you. So, it's not going to be, there's some professional programs where they set you up with a mentor, and it's basically you check in with that person. That's okay. It's, it serves this person. You're not sort of like a mentor as you are sort of like a guy for a period of time. The mentor relationships, they develop organically. And, those are those kind of things. So I think you got to just be open to be with different people. And then I tell people too, you don't necessarily have to have full-time mentors. I call them mentoring moments. If I got some time to hang out with somebody, like there have been college presidents that I really admire, and I could go hang out with them and go to lunch with them for like an hour or so, I'm getting as much as I can from them in that hour. That to me was like worth it. It's like, and if it develops into something else later, that's cool. But to me, it's like, okay, I got an hour with, or 2 hours with Norman Francis. Now I knew him for years before I got here, but we spent 2 hours just breaking down the Hurricane game in New Orleans, because that was just new to me. And he started going through all the history of Dillard and Xavier and how certain things, you know what I'm saying? That was just a mentoring moment for me. Now I can still call him for stuff now, but I didn't need to take up a lot of his time. What he gave me in 2 hours was plenty. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I value that. Like, that was very important for me starting off at Dillard, because he told me some stuff I needed to know that was very important. If he don't tell me nothing else, he told me a lot to get me started off on the right foot. So that's what people look. And then I said, you can be mentored and learn from people that you never meet through books. Like I said, one of my mentors is Benjamin Mays, because I read everything Benjamin Mays. I read dissertations about him. I've read speeches. That's who I want to be like. So I'm a disciple of Benjamin Mays. And even though I did meet him because I went to Mays High School, he was still alive in Atlanta, and he was over the Atlanta school board. So I did meet him, but I was like, 10th, 11th grade, you know what I'm saying? But I count Benjamin Mays as one of my mentors. He's my spiritual mentor to this day. And I read Benjamin Mays stuff and get ideas about how I want to attack things based on what Mays would have done. So there are different ways you can look at it. But it's, I think they develop the best mentoring relationships develop organically. I don't think people can have a million mentees, because then you're cheating them. You just not, like I said, Jeff and I don't get to hang out, all the time. But if we would get together once or twice a year, it could be powerful in that amount of time. But like I said, we was on campus, I might just pop in the office and ask about such and such, but it's normally about some music related stuff, Yeah. So those are those things that are important. But then if he needs to talk about something serious, then it's like, okay, we can have that conversation too.
And there was a few times that I did have to pull, like, yo, we got to talk about some serious stuff.
Right.
But you know what though, the thing that, like, I think that, like, the mentoring is a two-way street, right?
Yeah.
And what I never tried to do was leverage our relationship to get something that I shouldn't have got, or take advantage of anything, like I never wanted to do that, because to me, like, I think that, fuck all this higher ed stuff, right? I think you're a good dude. And I need more good men in my life.
Right. Yeah.
right? So like, yeah, I understand higher ed, you're smart, all that good stuff.
Mhm.
But in life, you always need another good man.
Right.
Because you are a married man, right? And I'm trying to aspire to this level of success, not only professionally but personally, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you survive in this world that, from my parents, I wasn't really privy to. Like, my dad's married, but he wasn't married to my mom, and stuff like that. So like, in order to go somewhere that you've never been before, you have to enlist people that have already been there that can show you the way.
Right. Right.
And that's what I really like. So when you talk about mentoring, and for the people listening, because we still got a bunch of people listening, the mentorship is a two-way street. So as a mentee, you can't take advantage of the mentorship, right? Like, you always got to be respectful and be within the borders of the relationship, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
just
no, it's like I said, I think you just have different kinds of mentors for different things. When I'm looking at jobs, like I'd always text Charlie Nelms, and I was just like, all right, I need to bounce this off of you. So he's my professional mentor coach, where I'm just sort of asking, like, all right, what you think about this? Or he might see a job and be like, all right, I want to nominate you for this. What you think about? So those but then there are things, that projects he's working on, and he's saying, hey, can you help me do blah blah blah? What you think about this? But then I get to bounce, he bounces things off of me so I can give some ideas, which is sort of cool because he knows more than I do, but he still wants to get my opinion sometimes. So I feel like I'm contributing.
yeah.
He knows so much, so I appreciate that.
I just told Kisman to give me a job in the summer because he around here playing. I said, I'm unemployed. Go on and hit me up with some seasonal work.
Right, exactly.
All right, look, I done held my people for long enough, so I just want to take the moment to like get final words, final thoughts, and then we'll wrap. And then Doc, if you'll stay on for a second, me and you will wrap. And
Okay.
Kisman as well. So just Kisman, I'll start with you, and then we'll end with you, Doc.
Well, Dr. Kimbrough, thank you for joining and sharing your thoughts and insights and experiences. I think one takeaway from tonight, for me, is the word alignment. I think I think we have to pay attention to those signs, because in my departure from the University of West Florida, I was ready to leave, but my departure happened more abruptly. Like I wasn't in control of how that happened, but it was time. And I don't think I paid attention to the signs leading up to that. So that alignment piece, I think, is quite significant. For you, Jeffrey, you're charting into new territories. And it seems like the light is coming on as far as what's going to be the next steps. And for you, Dr. Kimbrough, you have this wealth of professional experience that has you in a situation where you're not dependent on a job. Because a lot of us, and myself included, in my leaving UWF, at that time, I would say that I was dependent on a job to pay bills and sustain life. I got two babies I need to provide for, and my decision making, I think, was clouded because I felt like I need a job. I have to be at somebody's place of business in order for things to go right. But I should have just been paying attention to that alignment. So and seeing the signs and working them and realizing that God has a plan for me, and it's going to come as it's supposed to come, as it has now. So I appreciate the conversation and that jewel that you guys shared with me today.
Doc.
Yeah, no, I think alignment is a good word. Just to follow up on that, I think paying attention to those signs is good to do. It is hard too. It's been, like I said, it's been a sort of faith journey for me to say in August, like, this is gonna be my last year. I don't have a plan. This is it. I'm just done. It's still is crazy to me. And my wife keeps reminding me, like, oh, you can get a job. And I'm like, and I think about it, it's like the day I announced, I had 2 job offers immediately. I mean, one to go teach at Southern Cal, one to go work for the accreditor. I was like, no, I'm just, so it's not like I can't get a job. And then, like I said, somebody was like, oh, you got this book tour you could do. And I was like, yeah. But, I still wrestle with that. I mean, just to be completely transparent, because part of me feels like, no, dude, you're supposed to have a job. You ain't supposed to be just like doing nothing, even though I probably need to just to take a break. I'm still wrapping my mind around that. So hopefully I'm gonna learn from this experience. Like I said, I don't know how long it's gonna last because, like I said, I might get a job offer in the next week when I got this. Like I said, foundation president texting me today talking about I'm flying from LA to come talk to you. I'm like, ooh, this thing, man. I did an interview, and it wasn't really like an interview with their board yesterday or day before yesterday. So obviously it went well. So I just don't know, but I'm trying to learn how to just like deal with the uncertainty because I want to role model that for people who should do this as well. And do things that are aligned and not just do stuff because I feel like I have to. So it's something I think we all can learn. It's a part of a process. So I still struggle with that too. It makes me unnerved because I've always knew what I was going to do next. I'm very much, pretty organized, but this has been a new experience. But like I said, even this conversation is helpful because, I might have to go spend a year in a strip club. That might be the way I get through this.
But you got help when you do.
Right, exactly.
I don't want you to discount what I've been telling you. I'm with you. Now, so look, I just to build off your point, Doc. It is the scariest thing ever. Like when I left and everybody asked me, well, what are you going to go do? And I just told everybody, I'm just going to go home. Like, that's it. But I think that was the thing that needed to happen. That was the thing that I needed to do. I think I was frustrated to a point where I was like, nah, like I'm not living in purpose anymore. I was. And when you talk about like living legacy, like I have a lot of young men that probably graduated because of me and the programs that you allowed me to do. Right. And I had to be satisfied with that and that be good enough.
Right.
Now, the scariest thing ever is I'm a worrier. I worry a lot. I worry about, because I grew up broke, and I worry all the time about where my next check is going to come from. And to not be able to know that is one of the scariest things, especially as one of the heads of household, a provider, and all of these things that a man is supposed to be. To not know where it's going to come from is literally terrifying, right? Yeah. But thankfully, I have a good enough partner and good enough support circle that tells me, yo, you're on the right path. You're doing it. So with those things like noted and put in place, that's what you have to have on your journey. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little bit further along in this journey than you are right now. So if you need some advice, you come holler at me.
Right.
And my hope is that I never like spending all this time with my children and being relatively free during the day. I hope I never have to report somewhere in between the hours of 8 to 5 every day. But I hope if I ever have to, I putting your name down on my contact list for a letter for
a recommendation,
and they just gonna have, and you just gonna have to be like, nah, I ain't doing it. Because it's all about these relationships that we're building and like that we're doing moving forward. And I believe in that. And one thing that I learned growing up that Kismet, you taught me, is that you always take care of the people that take care of you. So if I got to move heaven and earth to make it happen, the people that rock with me, I'm going to make sure that they know I rock with them. And that's to me, this whole conversation in a nutshell. Alignment and relationships and alignment. So this is the teacher in me, people. So when we wrap up, I want you to take these nuggets and I want you to really think about this. This is your homework. I want you to think about this, about the relationships that we have and the relationships that we're cultivating and how we are in spiritual alignment with the world around us and the people around us. One of my favorite pastors is, and I peeped him in the pandemic, Reginald Sharp in Chicago. You ever heard of him, Doc? You haven't?
No.
Oh boy, that boy bad.
Okay, I'll check him out.
Reginald Sharp in Chicago got me through the pandemic. He was so cold online. I was donating money to his church from the couch. Like, he was so good. He's a young brother. I believe he's an Alpha and a Morehouse grad.
Okay.
And just amazing pastor, Fellowship Baptist Church.
Okay.
In Chicago. And he talks about being in alignment and being aware of what's going on. And I think that's one of the voices that I follow, as well as TD Jakes. So I encourage you all, if you need some spiritual guidance, seek those people out. All right.
Reginald Sharp.
Reginald Sharp, that's my guy. I think it's Reginald Sharp Jr. He's phenomenal. My LB Micah turned me on to him. That's another one too. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for coming out. Like I said, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that. And as Brian says, if you bring the drinks, we'll bring the discussion. We'll holler at you later. Peace.